Pain. That was the first thing that returned. Not light, not sound. Pain. It spread through every part of Sailor's body until he could no longer tell where one injury ended and another began. His chest fought for each breath. Something warm ran down the side of his face. Blood or worse, he couldn't tell. He tried to move. His left arm answered. His right did not. A sharp breath escaped between clenched teeth. "Wonderful," he muttered. "That seems inconvenient." His own voice startled him. It vanished into the darkness. No echo. Sailor frowned. There should have been one. Slowly, he opened his eyes. Nothing. Not darkness. Absence. He had spent enough time inside volcanic caverns to know what darkness looked like. This was different. It swallowed the edges of thought itself, as though the world ended only a few paces away. He reached for the satchel at his side. Still there. Good. His fingers searched through familiar instruments until they found a small spark crystal sealed inside a bronze housing. He struck the ignition. A pale crimson glow spilled into the cavern. Relief came first, then confusion. The floor beneath him was perfectly smooth. Not worn smooth, made smooth. His pulse slowed. That wasn't possible. Volcanic collapses did not carve polished stone. He lifted the crystal higher. The light stretched farther. Still smooth. No fractures. No shattered basalt. No debris. Where had the mountain gone? A low crack echoed somewhere ahead. Sailor froze. Not the crack of falling stone. Something rhythmic, almost deliberate. He held his breath. Silence. Had he imagined it? His heartbeat sounded absurdly loud. He forced himself to breathe again. Think. Broken arm, likely cracked ribs, severe bruising, concussion possible. Alive. Against every reasonable expectation, alive. His eyes drifted back across the cavern floor. There, a line, barely visible beneath centuries of dust. Too straight. Far too straight. He knelt despite the protest from his ribs. Crystal trembled in his hand as he brushed the dust away with careful fingers. Stone. No, not stone. A seam. Perfectly cut. His thoughts stopped. Someone had built this. But that raised a question far more dangerous than the fall itself. Who? No record spoke of structures beneath Infernal Pyre. No expedition had ever returned claiming otherwise. His hand remained resting on the ancient seam. Cold. It was cold. Sailor stared. Cold stone did not exist this deep beneath the living world. Very slowly, his curiosity overcame his fear. He followed the seam into the darkness. After 3 careful steps, he realized something that made every instinct in his body scream at him to stop. The seam was no longer beside him. It was opening. Pain arrived first. Not the sharp, blinding pain of broken bones. The slow, crushing ache of a body that had fallen far beyond what it should have survived. Sailor didn't move. Not yet. He lay perfectly still, breathing through the pain, letting his mind return before asking his body to follow. His mentor had taught him that years ago. A frightened physician diagnoses poorly. A calm one lives longer. His lips twitched. I hope you're right. He opened his eyes. Nothing. His wings answered instinctively. Thin veins of crimson fire spread through them, illuminating the membranes until a gentle glow pushed back the darkness. It reached no farther than several paces, just enough to reveal the ground around him, enough to search. His satchel lay a short distance away. Relief washed over him. He pushed himself onto one knee. His ribs protested. His shoulder burned. His right leg nearly buckled. Nothing fatal. He'd been fortunate. Or impossibly lucky. As he crossed the short distance to his satchel, something immediately felt wrong. There should have been rubble. He remembered the mountain collapsing. He remembered stone falling with him. So, where was it? The ground beneath his boots was perfectly smooth, hidden beneath a blanket of ancient dust that had remained undisturbed for longer than he dared imagine. Not polished by water, not worn by wind, crafted. He crouched. His fingertips brushed the surface. Cold. His hand stopped. Cold? That couldn't be right. This deep beneath Infernal Pyre, every stone should have been warm from the living world's heart. Yet this surface carried no heat at all. He frowned. One impossible observation became two. Someone had shaped this floor, and somehow it had remained cold. Questions crowded his thoughts faster than he could answer them. He unclipped the spark lantern from his satchel. The brass housing was scratched but intact. He turned the focusing ring. With a quiet hum, the refined spark crystal awakened. A concentrated beam of crimson light reached into the darkness, extending far beyond the glow of his wings. The beam found nothing. No wall, no ceiling, no end. Sailor slowly raised the lantern higher. The light disappeared into an emptiness so vast that his mind refused to measure it. His breathing became quieter. Every cavern had boundaries. This place did not. He picked up a loose fragment of black stone, no larger than his thumb, and threw it with all the strength he could manage. He listened. 1 heartbeat. 2. 5. 10. Nothing. No impact. No echo. His fingers tightened around the lantern. Impossible. His voice sounded absurdly small. For the first time since waking, fear pushed curiosity aside. Only for a moment. Then curiosity returned. It always did. He adjusted the lantern again, sweeping the beam slowly across the darkness. Something interrupted the light. Far away. At first, he thought it was a cliff face, a black ridge rising from the cavern floor. He narrowed the beam. The surface caught the light differently than stone. It reflected. Not brightly. Softly. Like polished obsidian. He took several cautious steps forward. The ridge didn't seem to move. Strange. He walked farther. Still. No closer. His physician's mind immediately rejected what his eyes were telling him. Either the object was impossibly distant or impossibly large. Neither explanation made sense. He continued walking. Minutes passed. The beam finally reached the surface. His breath caught. It wasn't rock. Before him lay a single black plate larger than a house. Its surface curved gently, layered with patterns so precise they looked almost biological. Sailor slowly reached out. His fingertips rested against it. Smooth, warm, alive. Every instinct screamed at him to step away. Instead, he leaned closer. "What are you?" The answer did not come, but somewhere in the endless darkness, something took a single, impossibly deep breath. The breath faded into silence. Sailor didn't move. He wasn't afraid of making noise. He was afraid of hearing another one. His grip tightened around the spark lantern. The polished alloy casing was warm against his palm, familiar in a way nothing else down here was. Familiar things anchored the mind. He needed that. He forced himself to breathe. Once, twice. Nothing answered. "You're exhausted," he whispered to himself. "You've fallen farther than any physician should survive. You struck your head. You're hearing things." The explanation sounded reasonable. He didn't believe it. His wings dimmed instinctively as he narrowed his focus. Their crimson glow retreated until only the lantern illuminated the darkness ahead. The beam swept across the enormous black plate. It wasn't perfectly smooth. His pulse quickened. There were lines, not cracks, patterns. They curved across the surface in long, graceful arcs, each one intersecting another before disappearing beneath layers of dust. They reminded him of muscle fibers beneath skin, except no living creature could possess scales this large. He knelt. Curiosity won again. The dust clung to his fingertips as he brushed a narrow path across the surface. The material beneath was flawless, not chipped, not weathered, not worn. It looked cared for. His physician's instincts stirred. Living tissue repaired itself. Stone did not, unless... No, he shook his head before the thought could finish. Impossible ideas had become dangerous. He lifted the lantern closer. The crystal's light reflected across the black surface. For the briefest instant, the reflection moved. Sailor froze. He lowered the lantern. The reflection stopped. He raised it again. Nothing. His eyes narrowed. He wasn't looking at polished stone. He was looking at something that expanded, then settled. So slowly he almost missed it. A memory surfaced. Patients sleeping after surgery. The rise and fall of a chest. His mouth went dry. He didn't step back. Instead, he placed one hand gently against the immense black surface. Warm, not from the mountain, from within. His heartbeat became painfully loud. He held his own breath. The world held its breath with him. Then the surface beneath his hand lifted. Barely, only the width of a finger. It was enough. Enough to tell him he was no longer touching an object. He was touching a living creature. Sailor slowly tilted his head upward, following the impossible curve as it disappeared into darkness beyond the reach of his lantern. How large would something have to be for its body to become part of the landscape? The question escaped him before he realized he'd spoken it aloud. This time, the darkness answered. A low chuckle drifted through the cavern, old, patient, amused. Asking questions already? The voice paused, as though smiling to itself. I was beginning to wonder how long you would take. Sailor spun toward the voice. The lantern swept through the darkness. Nothing. No movement. No figure. Only the endless cavern stretching beyond the reach of the crystal's light. His pulse hammered against his ribs. Who's there? The question sounded smaller than he intended. Silence answered. Then the same voice returned. An excellent question. It carried no anger, no threat, only quiet. Amusement. Sailor slowly turned in a circle, searching for the speaker. Show yourself. A soft chuckle rolled through the cavern, deep enough that he felt it in his chest before he heard it with his ears. You assume I am hiding. Sailor stopped breathing. The voice, it wasn't echoing. It had no direction. It seemed to exist inside the cavern itself. His physician's mind reached desperately for an explanation. Acoustics, the shape of the chamber, hidden passages, anything. None of them fit. He tightened his grip on the lantern. I don't know what you are. No, the answer came gently. You do not. Something about those words unsettled him more than the darkness ever had. There was no arrogance in them, only certainty. Sailor glanced back toward the enormous black surface behind him. His eyes followed its impossible curve into the darkness. His heartbeat slowed, not because he was calmer, because another question had taken hold. He hesitated, If you're speaking, his gaze drifted upward again, then what am I touching? The cavern fell silent, long enough that he wondered if the conversation had ended. Then, the ground beneath his feet shifted, not violently, slowly, almost carefully. The immense black surface beneath his hand rose another few inches before settling again. The movement continued outward into the darkness, like a ripple traveling through an endless sea. Sailor instinctively stepped back. The lantern's beam climbed higher, higher, still higher. The curve never ended. His mind tried to measure it, failed. Tried again, failed again. No, the word escaped as little more than a breath. His training abandoned him. His calculations abandoned him. Nothing in anatomy, nothing in geology, nothing in all the records preserved within the Xaithal contained a place for this. The voice spoke again, closer this time. So, another pause. Have you finished measuring me? For the first time in his life, Sailor had no question, only. The silence stretched between them. Sailor was the first to break it. I should be afraid of you. You should. The answer came so calmly that Sailor almost laughed. Almost. But you aren't? No. Why? Sailor searched for the truth instead of the safest answer. Because if you wished me dead, his eyes drifted once more along the impossible curve, disappearing into darkness. I would have died before I ever knew you were here. A deep rumble rolled through the cavern. Not laughter, approval. Reasonable. Sailor released a slow breath. The fear remained. It had simply made room for something stronger, curiosity. He lowered himself onto a nearby slab of black stone, every muscle aching from the fall. For the first time since waking beneath the mountain, he looked at the impossible creature without trying to explain it. Instead, he accepted that he couldn't. May I ask you something? You have done little else since arriving. The dry humor caught Sailor off guard. A faint smile escaped him. I suppose I have. You suppose correctly. Sailor looked down at his own hands. So many things stopped making sense today. They did. I've spent my life believing that if I asked enough questions, he hesitated, the world would eventually answer. And has it? Sailor thought about the floating cities, the Xaithal, the patients he had treated, the mountain, the impossible cavern. Finally, I don't know anymore. For the first time, the great voice lost its amusement. You have taken your first step. Sailor frowned. My first step toward what? A long silence followed. Then the ancient creature spoke again. Tell me, little physician, what purpose do you believe your wings serve? Sailor blanked. He almost laughed. My wings? Yes. They produce light. They help with balance. They're simply part of us. Were those your observations? The voice softened. Or were they someone else's conclusions? The question struck harder. Then the fall. Sailor opened his mouth, closed it again. He had no answer. The ancient voice continued. You have spent your life studying bodies. Another pause. And yet, the words echoed gently through the endless cavern. You have never truly examined your own. Sailor slowly looked over his shoulder. His wings still glowed faintly in the darkness. For the first time in his life, he wasn't certain what he was looking at. The ancient creature drew one slow breath. I suppose, another pause, it's time someone told you what your people were actually born to become. The cavern fell silent.